Welcome everybody to the Educator Empowerment Hour. My name is Brandon Burns, and it is an honor and a privilege to welcome you into the family for the next hour or so. We're going to have so much fun together. I will be serving as your host, and you are about to get one of the most thorough, incredible hours of professional development that you have ever had. I'm just going to put that out there and claim it because I truly believe it. So before we jump into this, let me just be the first to welcome all of you who are educators. When I say educators, I mean teachers, I mean principals, I mean superintendents, everybody who is involved in the holistic education system. Welcome. This is for you. And I want to say thank you before moving any further, because let's be honest, we know that this can be a thankless job at times. And we know how much you pour your heart and soul into the work that you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be in this industry. So thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to spend time with us for this next hour of professional development. You have shown that you're committed to leveling up and creating a massive impact. And for that, we salute you. Now, the goal for today is to motivate, it's to inspire. Of course, anything to do with ET is going to have some motivation and some inspiration, so we already know that. But we also want to provide some tangible, tactical takeaways that you can use to increase literacy and leadership in your classrooms. This is stuff that you can execute tomorrow. This is not a sit and get, feel good, and then go home type of professional development certificate. Absolutely not. This is something that we want you to be able to take these strategies, go to the classroom tomorrow, and execute, because that's what we believe really creates that massive impact. Now, I told you I'm going to be your host, but of course we got some other people here too. We got the dream team, to be honest. When they told me who all was going to be involved with this, I got jealous. I said, why do you need me to host it? I want to sit back and watch. We've got ET, of course. You know him, you love him. He's the world's #1 motivational speaker. He's a New York Times bestselling author. And yes, he is, in fact, an educator. And I'm so excited for the conversation that we're about to have over the next hour or so, because you're going to get to know ET on a little bit more of an intimate level. These educational conversations, he doesn't always have an opportunity to have these on those big stages that you might be accustomed to seeing him on. And so this type of professional development, I'll be honest with you, that's where ET's heart is. So I am so excited that you get the chance to witness this firsthand, but he didn't come alone. Not at all. He's got the mastermind behind the entire Access EDU department from within ETA. Her name's Katie Davis. You might have heard her known as the Literacy Lady. She's got a master's degree in curriculum and instruction with literacy and language emphasis. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds super impressive, so I'm sure you're getting a ton from her. And she has taught almost every grade level from K through 12, which is just incredible to me, the educational journey that she has been on. But she's joined forces with ET to help bring this style of teaching and professional development global. And we're going to start right here with each and every one of you that's watching this. Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention you need to stick around until the end. You've got to do it. We're going to give you an opportunity to learn more. We're going to give you an opportunity to access some special bonus materials that you cannot get unless you stay until the end. And I promise you, once we get started, you're not going to want to get up and miss a single second of this. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of the way. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Grab a pen and a pad, get ready to take notes, and buckle up your seatbelt, because this is going to be one of the most action-packed hours of professional development that you have ever experienced in your life. And with that being said, ET and Katie, take it away.
Hey, welcome to our Educator Empowerment Hour. We are so glad to have a lot of educators, administrators in the room with us today, and probably watching on the replay too. And yeah, we're excited to jump into talking about increasing literacy and leadership skills for your students in your classroom and school-wide.
Yeah, and I truly believe that this next hour is going to move the needle, right? I get it. You know, I taught K through 12 for 7 years, and I was at Michigan State, for 5 years, and we already got a lot to do. You know what I'm saying? We already got a lot on our plate as educators, right? Again, all my degrees are in education, from my 4-year degree to my PhD, to some extent. So I already know it's like a lot going on. And so this isn't meant to complicate, your profession or your daily educational experience. This is really meant to enhance it. And we really believe that if you spend this time with us, that we have some things that are really going to help you to move the needle.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Katie, and I'm Executive Director with Access EDU and the School Days with ET Programming, and we are excited about, just like he said, helping you move the needle in your schools and your classrooms, and specifically in literacy and leadership. And we'll talk about why those two things, why we focused on those two things to help support you.
Yeah. So when we talk about leadership, right, as you see here on the screen, 40% of high school students are chronically disengaged, and honestly, when I think about being a teacher, and I didn't mean any harm, but I was never taught this really in any of my coursework. Like I wasn't taught outside of my curriculum, outside of, really moving the needle academically. I wasn't taught that, we're a team, and to get the entire class, if you will, involved. Like I literally looked at students individually and I looked at my classroom individually, right? And so when I talk about leadership, looking back, I'm like, wow, I speak for, Alabama football and Auburn football and, Miami, like Michigan State. And, when I think about it, it's like they are a team, and while they're individuals, they have an identity. And a lot of the teams that I work for, you're not allowed to wear certain things because it brings out more of the individual. So some teams, it's just a number, it's just the team logo. Like you don't have, I think like Notre Dame, they don't have their names on the back of the jersey. It's like, and so I never did that as a teacher. I never did that in my classroom. And so I want to share another stat with you guys from the National Association of College and Employers. The top qualities of sought after employees are the ability to work in a team, written and verbal communication skills, and a solid analytic and interpersonal skills. Like this is what's so important. So not only am I preparing them when they leave school, but we have to start doing it while they're actually in the classroom. So for my teachers out there, this may, be a new construct for some of you it may not be, but imagine like the Tigers, the Yankees, I should have had a name for my class.
Oh, I love that.
I should have had a name for my class. I should have, had roles and positions. Like, guys, although you have a single report card, and a single academic journey, like still, we are a team. And so I really want to push leadership. Why? Because leadership goes into taking your classroom from being individual minded to being group focused, right? And this is also important. When you get a chance, study this. We didn't put this up, but I've been studying the most successful animals, in the animal kingdom. And I looked at like a lone wolf, like their hunt rate is maybe like 20%. But then I look at hyenas and African wild dogs, and they have like a 90% chance. And I start really digging into it. And one of the things that I noticed is that the animals that do the best, they operate in a pack. So they're not going after a particular hunt singularly. They're going after it as a group. And some of the smaller animals do better than some of the bigger animals because they're doing it collectively. So I really want us to start thinking about our classroom, thinking about leadership. Like, how can we turn our classroom into a team where, yes, you do have this individual strengths, but imagine bringing it together. It reminds me of John Maxwell. He says when you don't have leadership, right, you're adding. But when you have leadership, you're multiplying. So imagine being in a classroom where everybody's using their skills, their talents, and their resources and helping each other. You're talking about a class that goes from like subtraction and addition to exponents, right? All right. So let's keep going.
I love it. Yeah. And so literacy is the other piece. So we're talking about preparing our kids for college and career, which we know is what all of our educators want to do. We want them to have those leadership skills and to increase their literacy skills. And our educators know that already, but it is good for us to just pause and look at what our current literacy statistics look like. And also to think of that in the framework of like all content areas and all grade levels and why it's important for everybody. So these are a couple just recent statistics for us to look at and think about as an educational community. 85% of students in the U.S. involved in the U.S. juvenile court system are functionally low literate, meaning they're lacking basic reading and writing skills. 3.5 times more likely to be arrested in your lifetime if you're a high school dropout. So these are real things for us to think about and care about for all of our students. And then these next two I think are really interesting, knowing that this is across the board. 40% of students in the U.S. are not reading at a basic reading level. So not where they're supposed to be, 40%. That's staggering. I think that should cause all of us to pause and course correct of what do we need to do to get all of our kids where they need to be. And then this last one I think is really interesting, that 60% of behavior issues that are documented for students across the U.S. occur during reading instruction.
Wow.
So really, really interesting for us to pause and think about that. The likelihood that our kids during reading instruction are not feeling confident or skilled or supported in the way that would help them to be successful probably is impacting their behavior.
No questions asked. Yeah, no questions asked. Yep. So if we want to change the world and get kids college and career ready, what do? All right. We've got to build a next generation of leaders, readers, and critical thinkers. And this is why I said leadership, right? This is, and I'm going to tell you my own personal academic journey. I felt the strongest in college, right? And there's a term we use in academia, self-efficacy, right? And self-efficacy is just the belief, one's belief or attitude that they can do well academically. Like, I got this, I can do this, right? This is so important in terms of a culture, because if one individual feels like they can do it, imagine what happens when that individual is now with another group of people who feel they can also do it, right? So I remember not really doing well K through 12, and a lot of it had to do with, just singular learning. So if I wasn't engaged, I wasn't engaged. If I didn't like a subject, I didn't like a subject, right? But when I got to college, I'll never forget studying with Travarius, Frank Dent, right? And it was so crazy because they were younger than me, but they really believed they could do well academically. Like, they loved, I wouldn't say they loved school, but they loved the process that they had. They had a process that they used, and they used a name, and then from the name they would remember like different historical events or statistics by just a name. And I just remember being with them and seeing how confident they were, that it rubbed off on me. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if you were the Bad News Bears. Like, I don't know if you remember that it was a movie back in the day, but it was the Bad News Bears. Like, imagine being in a culture where every time you lose, but then imagine being with a team like you get drafted to the Yankees or the Lakers. Like, it's this feeling of, this is a dynasty. Like, they're committed to winning. Like, most of the time they win. Even LeBron left and went to the Lakers and felt like, I'm a part of Kobe and, Shaq, I'm a part of Magic, Will Chamberlain, And so this concept of leading and leadership is not just about the term, but imagine now you have 3 kids in your class that believe, that have confidence, and now they're getting the other students that don't believe. And now you got a whole group. And as a teacher and students, like, you believe. So reading, literacy, leadership, if we can get kids to believe that and go to another level, I promise you, everything is going to change. So again, inspire leadership. Why? The definition says it's a process of social influence. All right, remember what I just said. You already have the influence in the room, but a lot of times we're not using it. We're not being intentional and deliberate about it. We're not engaging in it. And you look at, and again, I don't mean to, to use a negative term, forgive me, but you look at gangs, right? And one of the reasons why gangs are so prevalent and so strong is because they are intentional and deliberate about using the influence they have to influence another group of people, right? And I'm just being honest. Some of those kids would probably never do that if the influence of the negative wasn't so strong. And so we got to combat that. Why and how? Through leadership, right? It's a process of social influence. So along with our curriculum and along with all of our academic demands, social influence has to be a part of that. And we have to use those kids who love school and those kids who have influence to say, hey, we got to start making school fun, and we got to start making people believe we can do it. Because I'm under the belief that nothing changed for me in terms of my brain, but when my confidence, my heart changed about school, everything changed, right? So I want to show you this term, maximize the efforts of others. This is what leadership is about. It's about the efforts are there, but maximizing those efforts and skills and skill sets and attitudes and mindsets. Like, if we can maximize that, man, we're going to get so much more out of our classroom toward what? Again, the achievement of a goal. And what is that? Whatever our benchmarks are academically, we got to show our babies those, and then we've got to get them excited about it And we've got to change the culture to say, hey, this is what we're focusing on. This is what we believe. This is what we can do. And then reward them for winning, because in the real world, when you win a pennant, you get rewarded for that.
I love it. And you're talking about helping students become leaders, influence the culture of their peers. And you're talking about rewarding students when they're doing a good job. So, of course, I want to mention that we have programming in place with the Playbook program and the Youth Exposure program, where we're able to help support schools in doing just that.
So give us some ideas, like what are some of the ways that we reward students?
Yes. So students that are part of our Playbook program at schools across the country right now have the opportunity to be a part of our Youth Exposure program when they are doing well. So we put it out as a reward for kids who are academically showing growth, those that are improving their attendance and decreasing disciplinary referrals. So all those things that we're going to talk about as we help build leaders. And yet we just took some students again this year for the second year in a row to the Super Bowl. 41 students in the Super Bowl.
I saw where you sent me a pic where the kids, I don't know how many of them, but they went to the Bulls game, the kids from Chicago.
55 of our Playbook students just went to a Bulls game, this last week. So yes, we get creative around here, and we're going to share ideas that are tangible that you can do in your classrooms right away to support your kids that don't have to be a Bulls game, of course. But we like to be able to support schools as you are supporting your kids with some unique opportunities like that.
All right, so here are 3 ways to increase leadership skills, all right, in the classroom, okay? We're talking about moving the needle. Imagine as a teacher, if you have a classroom full of leaders versus a classroom of followers. Imagine what that would look like and feel like, even changing your teaching experience. Imagine not having a bunch of academic referrals. Imagine, peer-to-peer learning and peer-to-peer correction, right? So motivation and inspiration is number 1. Like every day before we start, we should give the kids a reason to want to be there, both intrinsic and extrinsic, like a short term and a long term, right? So every day when they come in, they should be motivated. Some student should say something, or something should be read or shown that just inspires them. 30 seconds a minute, just get them pumped up. Imagine some of you without your coffee, how you would be.
That's me.
Right.
I'll walk in with mine.
Right. So let's think of, a different form of coffee being, we're motivating them, like getting them mentally and like spiritually prepared for class, like ready, and inspire them so that they can say, hey, for this next hour and a half, hour and 42 hours, like I'm inspired. Like this is why I'm doing this. This is the purpose of this. And I'm going to achieve the goal because it's going to move the needle in my personal life with my mom, my dad, my grandma, at home. What I'm doing right now is actually going to not only help me in the classroom, but it's going to help me in my real life. That's what we mean by motivating and inspiring them during that time that they're with you. All right. Yeah.
I was just saying, I love that you mentioned helping them to think about their grandmas and their things that are going to be like their why.
Absolutely.
And I know we'll talk more about the Playbook program later, but I love this picture where that is a major piece of what you talk with students about when we're in schools, is identifying their why and how you were able to do that.
Yeah, because as a teacher, I have a why, that was given to me by the state, the federal, as a why. I have my own personal reasons for teaching. I have a why. So why would I think I have a why, and that's what drives me and moves me to do what I do, but I'm not intentionally and deliberately activating or helping them to activate their why. So every day when they come in, I don't want them on E. Like every day when they come on, I want them to be at the highest level that they can be at. So number 2, it's create a positive learning environment. Like let's do, okay, I want to say this again. I use the word intentional and deliberate because I think sometimes we think because it's a new day and because they're in school that it's going to create itself. A positive learning environment is not going to create itself.
Definitely.
Like we have to create that. So we can use positive stuff that's happening in our world. We can use positive stuff that's happening among us. We can use positive stuff that happened to us. But we can literally create 180 days. We can be very intentional and deliberate, and we can pre-plan it. There could be some structural things that we use to create it, and then we can get them leadership, get them involved in coming in where we don't have to dominate and do everything and feel burnt out and stressed out, because that's the reason why some of us feel burnt out or stressed out by April or March, because we're doing the most. We're doing everything. Yeah, and it's 20 kids in a room, 30 kids in a room. And again, I know when I work with MLB teams, they have a roster, and they rotate their players. They use their players in a certain way, and some of those players do certain hand gestures. They do dance. They just do different things. LeBron takes it, like there are things that they do to create, they're listening to music. And so we have to create that if it doesn't exist, and then we don't have to create it alone. We've got 20 or 25 or 30 students in a classroom that can help us in the process of making sure that every day our environment, along with all our tools and resources, are just as ready to help us to achieve our why. Yeah, and then the last one, of course, we talked about this, but cultivating a culture of success, which means what? You do it consistently to the point where now it is a habit, right? It's a habit to come in time on task. It's a habit to come in and know what my why is. It's a habit for us to set the expectations as students to our peers. Like, it's a habit to make sure everything is done in decency and order. It's a habit to make sure that, we're sitting there, we're paying attention. It's a habit to be engaged and involved. So like, we don't even have to come in the classroom now and go, you're a Yankee. We want to win the pennant. You are a Laker. We want to win the final. Like, it's a Green Bay. We want to win the Lombardi trophy. Like, it's a habit now. You walk in and it's a part of the culture. And if we do that, for a semester or 2 semesters or for a year or 2 years, we can actually create a culture where when kids come to the school and come to our classrooms, they know this is how we function and this is how we operate. And I say that, and again, not joking, but jokingly. I know there'll be some Detroit people mad at me, but like, we have pennants that say we made it to the playoffs. Well, Boston will never do that. They don't even hang Eastern Conference Finals championships in their, in the stadium. They only put the world championships. Why? Because that's a part of their culture. They expect to win. Unfortunately, the Lions, we haven't won since 57, so our benchmarks are a lot lower. But we can create a culture where we are going to win. We are going to do well academically. We're going to test well. We're going to college. We're going to get a trade. We're going to do well. Like, it should be a norm so that when students are disruptive, then that's actually like confusing to students. Like, whoa, why would he do that? Why would he talk? Like, we don't do that here. So it can't just be from the top where teachers are constantly saying, we got to do this or that. We have to create a culture of winning, a culture of succeeding.
Yeah, and a big piece of that is expectations, right?
Absolutely.
So having really solid and high level expectations, and for all of our kids, not just some of them. So that is a huge piece, I think, of building that culture of success, right?
No question.
Sure, kids know that our expectations are high and they will rise to the level of our expectations.
And when I think about my own personal journey, when I went to college off of a GED, I'll never forget my freshman year telling jokes and clowning in the classroom, and a teacher and students that were my age pulled me to the side. I was like, bro, this is a very, distinguished HBCU. Like, I'm not sure where you come from, but we don't tell jokes in class. Like, we're trying to learn. And it was my peers that pulled me to the side, not just the teacher, but my peers that it was almost embarrassing. Whereas coming from my public school in Detroit, like, that was a part of the norm. You tell jokes, you laugh at people, you interrupt the teacher. It's like you kind of got credit for doing that. But in this HBCU, it was the opposite. It was like, yo, we don't do that here. Like, this, we're not playing. We're trying to be doctors and lawyers. And eventually, being in that culture, I transformed, and I ended up going from that 4-year degree to a PhD. So I took what they taught me and went further than a lot of my peers went, just because they helped me to see academia in a way I had never seen it before. So I think as early as we can, we need to let kids know in our classroom we're winning, we're winners, and we don't accept anything but this.
Absolutely. And when we work with students in the Playbook program, that's exactly what we do, right? So we make sure that educators, that you are supported. We know you know these things and that you're trying so hard to put all of these things in place already. And so we like to be a part of the team and help students to feel like, hey, we have high expectations for you, and you need to help out your teachers by having that kind of
third-party endorsement.
Yes,
coming in, let them know that ET, can't train. Like, we we believe what your teachers believe.
Absolutely.
And I think that is important as a third party endorsement to come in and echo some of that. Because sometimes, let's just be honest, when others outside say it, we tend to listen a little bit.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. I've seen those kids sit up and listen when you tell them they need to be listening to their teachers. So I love it. For sure. So, hey, the next thing we want to really just talk about today is literacy, of course. And that is the other piece of our goal with the Playbook program is increasing literacy and leadership skills. We talked about statistics for why that has been a big goal of ours. And we know educators, that's already a big goal of yours as well. But we know your time is valuable. So we want to give you some quick, tangible things that you could put in place in your classroom or school-wide tomorrow even that would help increase your literacy skills this spring or next school year, and that you could try right away. So couple things before we jump into that, I want to just say our focus really is on engagement.
Yes.
And I know you shared that engagement piece at the beginning, but there's a reason for that even when we're talking about literacy and why we want to focus on engagement with literacy. And that's just because we've got to make sure that our students are motivated to read the texts that we put in front of them to begin with.
Absolutely.
So especially at the secondary level, we know I didn't share a lot about my background, but as a reading specialist, I know that motivation is one of the 5 main components of reading at the secondary level. It replaces phonemic awareness for the elementary kids. And we actually have to support teaching our students how to be motivated to read in order for them to increase their literacy skills. So we've got to be innovative in making sure that they're engaged in their reading so that they will spend time doing that and reading the things that we put in front of them.
Absolutely.
So a couple things we're going to share with you, 3 quick ways that you can make sure that you are increasing literacy skills in your classroom or school-wide. And you could implement these without very much planning. I know we talked about not wanting you to spend too much time planning already, and you could get started with them right away. So the first one is meet students where they are. Of course, to meet students where they are, we have to know where they are, right? We have to know where they're coming from. And so we could talk a lot about literacy assessment and school-wide assessment, and those things are wonderful for schools that are able to put those in place. But really simple things that you could do in your own classroom to get to know your students and know more about where they're coming from in learning and literacy. One would be to know students' reading and learning histories. And a quick, easy way that I liked to do that was to have students write down their learning histories. And so that's approachable. They don't have to share. They can write it down on their own. But they would write, I'd have 12th graders write things like, I remember going to the library in kindergarten with my grandma, and that was positive for me. Or I remember in 2nd grade when I was in the lowest reading group, and I knew I was in the lowest reading group, and that was a negative feeling for me. And so when you have kids write that stuff down and reflect on it, it really gives them a voice and, puts power where it should be and maybe takes away some of the power of those negative things that they remember. And it allows them to share those things, those that are comfortable. I have them share with the partners or share with the classroom. And when you know those things about their reading and learning histories, you can use them to plan for instruction and to know your students better to make a larger impact.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I wish somebody would have done that to me. I never, K through 12, I never, and that's why, I think what you're saying is important because, okay, yeah, we do know to do certain things, but let's just be honest. It's not in the knowing that we're going to move the needle. It's in the actual doing. And there's so much that's going on from day to day that sometimes we don't do it. It was funny. I was talking to Carl today and we were talking about something and he was like, somebody told me, and I was like, man, I know that, Carl, but I wouldn't even think to tell you that because it's so obvious, that I wouldn't even think that you needed to know. I would have gone to second base or third base. And so I think that's important for our teachers to know, like we do got to figure out where they are because sometimes we rush and go straight into where we want them.
Content. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we know your plates are full, educators. You've been in your shoes. So your plates are full. You don't have a lot of time. But these are things that can take a small amount of time, but really make a large impact.
Absolutely.
So the other idea for you in order to meet your students where they are, to know more about them, would be to ask questions and then listen to their answers. Yes. And we know that not all students are comfortable sharing the answer to questions, right? So one really easy, approachable way to get your students to share more, and you could do this specific to your content area, or it could be about motivation, what motivates you to learn, what helps you engage in the classroom, any types of questions like that. What's your why? Why do you want to graduate from high school? And you can put these on chart papers around your classroom. So try this tomorrow. Put those chart papers around your classroom with those questions. Give students sticky notes, so the ones that don't want to share out loud can write them down. They number their sticky notes, and then just give them a minute to walk around the room, put their sticky notes on those chart papers, And it really gives them an opportunity to say what is important to them, to give you the information. I don't make students put names on them so that everybody just has the opportunity to share. And then as educators or leaders, administrators, you can look at that information, know so much more about your students and what's important to them, and really can guide really powerful classroom discussions.
I love it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Lastly, in order to get more information about your students as a reading specialist, I love this one.
Okay.
And that is to give out reading interest inventories. We often forget to do this with our secondary kids, and that is to find out what they're interested in reading. So you can find we could provide these for our educators for sure. You could find these online easily, but quiz your students, give them a quick little quiz on what interests them. Are they interested in biographies or online articles or magazines? What do they want to read? And find out what their interests are. Just simply giving a survey like that, if you do that school-wide, it validates that their interests matter, which really puts a lot of power into educators' hands because the kids, they buy in when they know that you care about what matters to them. And then you can use this information school-wide or in your classroom to really elevate your instruction. So across content areas, even my math teachers that are hanging with us and wondering how this applies, if you know, hey, 50% of my classroom, they're interested in reading biographies. And maybe they answer that honestly, like they don't love to read, but if they did, they would want to read biographies. Right. Boom, that week you can have paragraphs on the tables about mathematicians that they could read as a bell ringer when they come in, 5 minutes. But you just added literacy into your day because you know it matters because of the stats that we shared earlier, and you did it in an intentional way that brought in the interests of the kids in your classroom.
I love it. Leadership is about strategy. And what you just mentioned is so important. Even though it's a small thing, saying when you pass that document out, I'm actually passing it out because what interests you matters and what interests you is interesting to me as a teacher that has to. So yeah, that's phenomenal. I'm just saying I never got that document in school. Nobody ever asked me. And I think sometimes if we're not careful, we make assumptions. We look at kids and go, this kid would probably want to read this. This kid would probably
absolutely
want to read that.
Yeah, we've all done that, right? So until we ask and then listen to what they have to share.
That listen part, that's a whole nother hour. Yeah. I don't know that I listened well as a teacher. I think I was so consumed with what I had to do that I never even really listened to what they wanted or needed. And I didn't mean any harm. Like I was super engaged, but I would come up with what I thought they wanted and not sit there and say, hey, let's spend some time. You tell me, and then give them what they asked for.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So second thing today in your classroom or school-wide, you could add right away to make major impact in increasing literacy skills would be to add choice reading in. Right away, I know there's going to be people that say it's hard to make time for this. So we know that, but it is so important that, again, what students read, we want them to feel like we care about what matters to them and that they have time to read things that are engaging to them. So as a reading teacher, we say miles on the page. That's the phrase for we just want students reading a lot, right? If you're training for a marathon, you have to run a lot. Our kids have to read a lot. And if we looked at stats of how much time kids are really spending reading today, it's going to scare us, right? We need them to spend more time with miles on the page. And the best way to do that is to make time for them to read things that matter to them and that they are interested in.
Love it. Love it.
One quick, easy way to add in more choice reading and to expose kids to more text would be to get creative to get them to preview more books. And so a couple of ways that I've done that before are book tasting or book speed dating, we called it. So yes, very easy to set up. I have a little extra work, but I promise it doesn't take that long. I'd have students come in and tablecloths out, placemats on the tables, napkins even, but little book stacks on each of their plates. And so we did a quick timer would be set and book tasting. They can preview all of the books at their table. And it gives them an opportunity to find things that they're interested in for those kids who might not really enjoy reading and say that they don't know what they'd like to read.
I love it. I love that book tasting. Yeah. And then, hey, if you get creative after they finish tasting so many books, then we can actually bring something out.
Some dessert or something. You know those kids, teenagers especially, they like us to feed them.
Absolutely.
They love the speed dating one too. They always find it funny to hear that that's an actual thing that people have done before, speed dating. So I set the room up with like little candles and the books at each spot, and we set a timer, and they speed date the pile of books and then move from one spot to the next. So Just get creative and innovative in little ways like that to give kids the chance to be exposed to more book options. And then lastly, this one I think doesn't get utilized enough, but utilize your local libraries. Our local libraries are such an untapped resource that could make teachers' lives easier. So we want to take things off your plates, educators and schools, not put more things on your plate. Your local libraries want to help you. Interesting fact actually is that most libraries, their funding is tied to books, how many books they check out. So they want to increase their checkout rates. And so if you contact your local libraries and ask them to support you in bringing books in for your classrooms, most of them really want to do that, and it can make your planning easier. So across content areas, you could contact your local library, tell them what you're teaching, what your units are, what the reading levels of your students are, and often they will, for you, bring in books to match different reading levels of students and to match the content area that you're teaching, so you can bring more books into your classroom, but you don't have to do the work and going to get those books.
I love it. You know what's so funny? I'm literally asked, I'm not going to say K through 12, but entrepreneurs and people who are really in the leadership space and, you know, trying to really do well for themselves, they always ask me, E, what books have you read or do you read? You know, or are you reading? And so you just gave me an idea. I'm going to start interviewing some of my NFL, NBA guys, MLB guys, and I'm going to start asking them to give me their book list.
Love it.
And do a little interview with me on why they love that particular book, and then start pushing those videos out on social media so that more kids will become interested. Because they, like, believe it or not, 90% of my friends who are in the league, they are readers, either audiobooks or they actual read. And I never thought to tap into that, you know, part. I always look at the resiliency and the leadership stuff, but not, what books, like what's your favorite book to read? So I got that.
And often our students, they think they don't like to read. It's possibly because they just haven't found a book that they loved yet.
Yeah.
So many of them, their whole outlook on reading and learning and literacy changes when we get a book in their hands that interests them. So there's a lot of power in that.
All right. So I'm so excited to bring you to this portion. And why? Because a lot of what we said, there are those of you who are out there who are saying, man, I'd love to have ET and the crew, like physically, you know, in our building at some point. And then, you know, however, using technology to be a support to you. We talked about it earlier, you know, those animals that succeed are not the ones that do it alone, but they're the ones that do it, you know, as a team, collaboratively, you know, as a group, sharing each other's influence and sharing each other's skill sets. So I came up with the playbook program. I called Katie and was like, look, man, I need to create a curriculum. Like, this is not something that I just want to do, you know, in my spare time. Like, I want this to be my life work, right? And by that, I mean, even after I'm gone, I want my children and my children's children to, you know, really get behind this cause, because it's what changed my life and ultimately changed their lives. And, you know, when I think back, first thing I need you guys to understand is, again, self-efficacy. Like, the first thing that changed my life and that we infuse in the playbook is you can do it. And so there was a time in my life, because my father was a high school dropout. I've got uncles that dropped out. You know, I've got aunties that dropped out, you know, grandparents that didn't, you know, make it to middle school or high school, right? And so there was a time in my life that I just didn't feel academically I had it, that I didn't have the skill set. And so the first thing that happened for me was not the increase of my academic abilities. It was the shift in my mindset. It was an educator who told me, Katie, you can do it. Like, you have what it takes. You can make it happen. Like, you have the skill set. You know, you have, what you don't have is the desire, right? And so that was one. Number two, I literally began to read and read and read and read. And the very first book that I ever read on my own that changed my life, not that someone asked me to read, that I read on my own, was Gifted Hands. And as I began to read the story of Dr. Ben Carson and being from Detroit and what he went through, I was like, yo, we got to start something. And then I just remember being influenced in a negative way about school coming up. I had a lot of friends who were high school dropouts who was like, why you keep going to school? Like, drop out, hang out with us during the day. Like, have fun, live your life. You're not even doing well. And so those were the three things that actually were a kryptonite and a distraction. So those are the things that I like to focus on is you can do it. Number two, influence yourself or use positive influence. And number three, reading, writing, and becoming a critical thinker. Again, guys, I went from a GED. I'm not saying that, I should be in the Guinness World Book of Records, but I know there are a lot of us that haven't gone from high school dropout to PhD. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't that I couldn't do it. It wasn't that I didn't like it. It was just the way it was introduced to me. Wasn't introduced to me in a way where I felt like, it could help my life. And so I said, Katie, we've got to take my struggle, which is not my success, and we've got to wrap it in a curriculum, in a methodology that's very practical and that kids can digest and use to take their lives to the next level. And again, the Super Bowl is not about the Super Bowl. The Dubai trip is not about the Dubai trip. Allowing kids to go to the Bulls games and games around, that's not it. Those are carrots to help kids unlock their academic brilliance. So whatever we have to do, whatever we have to spend, me coming, me bringing some of my friends, with me, whether it be the technology space or whether it be in person, whatever, I do those things because I believe in these students, because somebody believed in me, and their belief in me academically changed my life and my children's life. Again, I say this in closing as I give it to Katie. I went to Michigan State, and as a result of that, my kids went to Michigan State. My son had a chance to work for Coach Izzo, a Hall of Fame coach. My son had an opportunity to go to a Final Four in the Elite Eight. He had a chance to travel the world with Michigan State basketball. My daughter went there, 40-degree, master's degree, and she's working professionally with faculty and staff and professors that mentored me when I was there. And so it's changed not only my life, but the trajectory of my generations to come. And so we truly believe in the Playbook program. And we hope that if your school is experiencing some of the challenges that we're talking about, that you will let us help you move the needle by bringing our Playbook program to your institution.
Absolutely. So a lot of people are asking questions about how do we get the Playbook program in our school? What does it look like? And so we want to answer some of those things for you and tell you a little bit more of what that whole program looks like. We designed it, just like you said, with the idea of really supporting students, supporting educators, trying to create generational change, and with the focus on increasing literacy and leadership skills. We really believe in that whole village approach. So I love this visual for you about the Playbook program that shows that we do whole group, large impact, large school assemblies. We do a small group portion. I'll tell you some more about that, but with a smaller group where we can really do a deep dive with them and meet with families. So we love to bring the families of our students in. We do dinners for the families and really engage and invest in the academic future of their students with them and alongside them. We love to provide tangibles for students and their families. So we designed the Playbook Planner for a really tangible way that students can implement the organizational skills that we're encouraging them to use. And we have a Playbook Planner that we share with parents as well. So a very similar but parent version of the planner. And the purpose behind those things are to help our students and our families to see that it takes a village. It takes all of us working together, and we want to support all parts of that village. Part of that is supporting the educators. We love getting to spend time with the educators and the staff in the schools that we visit as well. And so when we all work together, we really can make the largest amount of impact. Our solutions that we're offering with the Playbook program, alongside the really good work that educators are already doing in the schools that we're working with, of course, are to eliminate achievement gaps. That is our goal. We want to help you eliminate achievement gaps, create equitable access to opportunities for all students. We want to elevate family engagement. We know the large amount of impact that comes with getting our families engaged. We want to, again, support educators and share professional development opportunities with our educators and in helping them increase these skills for their students and positive academic outcomes. We see our students be really successful academically, and we'll share some of those results with you as well. So part of the Playbook program is our large group impact. So we bring in educational experts to meet with the whole school. We do a whole school assembly. It's a great way to begin the school year, really get everybody on the same page, bring in that motivation piece that really helps inspire the whole school and get everybody on the same page. The part that we're really excited about with the Playbook program is we call it our deep dive, our small group and large impact. And that is a group of about 50 students. We work alongside schools to choose those students in a way that best supports your goals. And those students come in for a longer amount of time, about a 3.5 hour time with our team, where we really get to know students, get to support them in real tangible ways. And then those students, we also bring their families in for that family dinner I talked about. We share tangible resources with the families. We connect with the community. So every community that we visit, we bring in community partners that can provide more additional resources for students and for families. And then, of course, also we mentioned the carrots that are kind of shared with students here. All of our students that are part of the Playbook program get access to earn participation in the Youth Exposure Program. And so we'll share more about that, but that is available for that group of students that is in our program. And it's a full year of support as well. So I know we talked about visiting the school in person, but we also meet with these students all school year long. So at least once a month, they're getting some interaction with our team as well. We like to say that it is going to bring schools, or it already is bringing schools, a high academic return on investment. So making an investment in your school and your students really can go a very long way with all of these pieces included. So planners for students, families, large group impact, small group impact, and then, of course, that opportunity for students to be a part of the Youth Exposure Program. So the Youth Exposure Program runs under the School Days Foundation, and that foundation provides these opportunities for students, all access, all expenses paid. I know we mentioned the Super Bowl students have been to a couple of years in a row. This past year, I think about 12 students got to go to Dubai, and really, really impactful, life-changing opportunities. They're almost unquantifiable in terms of data of what kind of change happens for students when they're able to be a part of those. And check out this testimonial where you can hear directly from one of our students involved in the Playbook program.
I really feel like this was a good opportunity for me and some of my peers that are here as well. It's something different and new to get out of the harbor and see new things, different things we've never seen before. Just coming to the Super Bowl in general, that's something I never thought I'd do. Like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I'm very thankful and grateful for this. You rock, E.T.
And so again, all of our students that are part of the Playbook program can earn participation in those things if they are meeting those high expectations that we're asking them to make. A little bit of data to show you on how successful our Playbook students have been in the schools that we're working alongside. 79% of Playbook students had a decrease in disciplinary referrals. So huge way to increase our leadership skills for students, of course, as we're sharing with them the decrease in disciplinary referrals and the importance of that. I know we mentioned the Bulls game we shared with students recently. All of the students that went on that trip had to eliminate disciplinary referrals to be able to participate in that. So really, we want to support schools in getting students engaged and out of those disciplinary actions that are going to get in the way of their academics. 78% of Playbook seniors that were a part of our program applied and were accepted into college. We're really proud of that one, really, really excited about our students who are college bound and those that are trade bound as well. And 76% of our Playbook students had a rise in GPA. So we talk a lot with students about the importance of growth. They're not trying to hit a certain GPA target, but we are monitoring and collecting data throughout the entire school year as we support and work alongside schools to make sure that our students are showing academic growth in their GPA. We are hoping that more schools are going to be a part of the Playbook program this year. We are preparing on our end to make sure that we can serve more schools than we've ever served before. And so if you feel like the Playbook program may be a good fit for your school, let's schedule a call so we can talk about that. You can find more information about the Playbook program at theplaybookprogram.com. You can also email us at info@weareaccessedu.com, and we can share additional information about the program for your schools.
Love it. Look forward to seeing you guys in person in your schools, and we're looking forward to supporting you in your academic outcomes.
Wow. Listen, we said from the very beginning of this that this was going to be one of the most transformational and impactful hours of professional development that you have ever experienced. And my goodness, it did not disappoint. I'm literally sitting here scrolling through my own notes because I wanted to make sure that I was absorbing each and every one of those gems that ET and Katie were dropping. This information was so valuable, and I'm really excited for you to take that information and go apply it in your school. We said at the very beginning of this that we don't want this to be sit and get, and we feel good about learning the information and it makes us excited and inspired, but then nothing changes. That's not what this is for. This is not a situation where we just wanted to get you excited so that you can go buy something else. This is a situation where we wanted to give you the actual tangible strategies, tactics, and techniques that you can use in your school right now and go make a massive impact. But let's be honest, this is going to affect some of you in different ways based on the perspective that you view the information through. So maybe some of you watching this are a school administrator and you're thinking about, how can I take these ideas and implement them to create a massive shift in the culture of my school as a whole? How can I get each and every kid? ET talked about this so much during the last hour. We've got to create that environment where kids feel that high expectation. They feel like they are expected to do great, amazing things in the classroom and out of the classroom. How do we create that culture, that environment where each and every student respects the routines that come with school, respects the personnel, the educational staff, respects themselves first and foremost? This is the type of information that if you take it and apply it, you can start to notice a change tomorrow. Some of you are thinking about this through the eyes of a teacher. Maybe you're in the classroom every single day, boots on the ground, teaching these kids. And if you're looking at this information, maybe you're thinking about what Katie mentioned over the last hour, using those reading interest inventories and getting the interests of your students so that they know that you value their interest. They know that you value what they care about and that you're integrating that into the educational plan. Maybe that's the perspective that you view it through. Or maybe you're thinking about the massive, massive impact that you could make by partnering with the Playbook program and bringing this information and all of the implementation assistance to your school. So if any one of those three sounds like you, I need you to do me a favor and stop right now. Go open up another tab. Go right now to theplaybookprogram.com. All right? Theplaybookprogram.com. And all you have to do is drop your email in that capture form that's right there in the middle of the website. Because here's the thing. We have a mission. We want to help as many students as possible. And I have a feeling that you want to do exactly the same thing. When two like-minded people come together, iron sharpens iron, and we believe that together we can help take your school to brand new heights. Just imagine this type of information, these type of people, this type of influence, combining with the hard work that you're already doing in your school. The possibilities are truly endless. And remember, an increase in literacy and leadership is not just an increase in outcomes for your school. And while that is important, it's also an increase and an investment in the futures of each and every child that's in the classroom. It's an investment in the kid's future. It's an investment in every single teacher's future who works at that institution. And it is an investment in the community and in large part, the fabric of society itself. I don't want to get too deep on you, but I truly, truly believe that together we can accomplish so much more than we ever could apart. And we can really make a mass impact. So one more time, go to theplaybookprogram.com, put your email in there, and we will be in touch. We're going to personally follow up with you and make sure that your school is a great fit for working with Katie, ET, and our entire department to help develop the teachers, the staff, the students, the entire holistic school. We're going to come in there and help you do what you do at an even higher level. So with that being said, theplaybookprogram.com. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I did. I was back here taking notes, screaming and hollering the entire time at each and every gem that was dropped. It was so incredibly impactful. But listen, go to theplaybookprogram.com, put your email in there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for investing not just in yourself, not just in professional development, but thank you for investing for each and every child who's going to be impacted by the information that you learned today. And I always tell people whenever I'm signing off of any event or program, don't just hear it, go execute. And I promise you, together, we can genuinely change the world one child at a time.